Hey guys, what's up? Tyler here. And I know what you're thinking. Well, probably. It's something a lot of us are thinking right now. How did we get here? What could we have done differently? What could have prevented us from getting to this low point that we can't seem to escape from? This is probably the worst case scenario that could have unfolded. But wait, what does worst case scenario actually mean? What does probability tell us about the seemingly chaotic nature of reality? Probability is a term we're all familiar with on some level, but might not fully understand. It's a subject we're taught relatively early in life, often illustrated by the use of things like playing cards or dice or other objects with mathematical properties. Now, when it comes to demonstrating probability with dice, one of the few things we have control over is how we throw them. It's easy to see then how certain outcomes can emerge. On a six-sided die, a 6, for example, has a 1 in 6 chance of being rolled. But intuitively, when it comes to the probability of external uncontrollable events in our lives, the math becomes far less predictable. Every day we make decisions about what to eat for breakfast, what to wear, what streets to drive down. These are all seemingly inconsequential choices. Of course, true randomness is not as cut and dry, and even the amount of control we have over our conscious thoughts is still up for debate. But you know what? Forget about choices. What about the things that happen to us, circumstances beyond our control? I'm talking about where we're born, who we meet at college, even who we fall in love with. When things don't go as planned, is it really the worst outcome we could have asked for? Or is it that we're experiencing the most likely scenario based on initial starting conditions, even though our brain is trying to tell us differently? People often make the mistake of thinking many things have a 50-50 chance of occurring. Now, while this is true sometimes, in reality, the statistical probability of any given event is either much smaller or much larger than people will initially guess. This is the naive definition of probability. The idea that the chances are always 50-50 for an either-or situation. Going back to our dice example, it would be presumptuous to think that your chances of rolling any given number are 50-50, the logic being that you either do or you don't. But because each side of the die has a roughly equal surface area, and there's more than two outcomes, there's 6 sides on this one, for example, that logic doesn't hold. But that doesn't mean if you roll a 2, for example, that your chances of rolling that number or any other number somehow change. This is the Monte Carlo fallacy, the idea that if an event occurs more frequently, it's less likely to occur in the future, or vice versa. The simplest demonstration of the Monte Carlo fallacy, also known as the gambler's fallacy, is with a coin flip. If you flip a coin enough times, the ratio of heads versus tails approaches 50-50. This is the law of large numbers at work. But even after several flips, the statistical difference between heads and tails does not systematically decrease to 0. There's still some variation because each flip is not dependent on the one that came before. On the other hand, when it comes to playing cards, drawing from a deck without replacement is an example of the opposite effect. The probability of drawing any given card is in fact dependent on which cards have already left the deck. This is what allows card counting systems in games like blackjack to work. But while the permutations of a deck are always unique, with a 52 card deck, for example, there are 52 factorial or 8 times 10 to the 67th power combinations. Technically, the outcomes of games can be determined and are influenced by human actions. So while it seems that the outcomes of some events are dependent on the past, other times they're not. But when it comes to life, which is it? Well, nobody really knows because, as I mentioned earlier, there's still a debate as to whether free will exists or whether the universe operates more deterministically. In either case, though, despite the appearance that the universe seems to operate on the whims of random chance, most events at the macro scale are still, well, predictable. You know, they say that hindsight is 20/20, and while that might sound cliche, it's honestly a very true statement. I mean, we have a better idea of why things happen after we know all the variables that were at play. Once we know things could have always been worse, it helps us put things in perspective and make better predictions for the future. For example, won't be doing that again. Now, this isn't to say that things happen for a reason, as that would imply there's some sort of guiding force making the chips fall into place. But even if we can only act on the impulses of our subconscious, the dice the universe plays with don't play favorites. Now, I'm not saying that unfairness doesn't exist in this world. Obviously, bad things happen to good people and vice versa. It's important to be aware of the downsides of every situation, but hyper-focusing on the negative can perpetuate a warped view of reality. Being in a bad mental state can alter your behavior and cause you to make inaccurate predictions. This isn't me saying look on the bright side either, because that also focuses too much on the positive and doesn't leave enough room for scrutiny. Cautious optimism should always be paired with a healthy dose of skepticism. So the next time you're down in the dumps and are thinking, well, this is the worst thing that could have happened to me, take a step back and really think about it. Once you've weighed how much better or worse things could be, you'll have a better shot at getting out of the hole.